Hello, buddy. Welcome back to another episode. I'm back with Madhusudan Rao, or we also call him Madhu. He's one of my friends from the AFS chapter, which is Bangalore, from Bangalore. And if you guys follow me or see me, or if you're my friend, you surely would know what AFS is. So, otherwise, to the formal introduction, Madhu is a teacher, an educator. And yes, so Madhu, thank you very, very much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure, Lakshit. Happy to be here.
Yes. So before we begin or get into any conversation, Madhu, that would be great if you could introduce yourself and what you do. In a
Sure.
broader way, the way, I was like in a shorter way, maybe more bigger and, better.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Madhusudan Rao, and I'm a lecturer at this college called East West Degree College in Bangalore. And I'm basically an MA English person, and I also have a TEFL from Asian College of Teachers. I love teaching English. I'm also the president of AFS Bangalore chapter. It's an international NGO. We organize a lot of exchange programs. It's the same organization that Lakshit went to France from, and I went to Japan from. So we are returnees of this organization, and I'm into reading, writing a bit, looking forward to publish soon. I've also published 2 to 3 ISB research articles, just hoping to make a little more difference in the jargon of education.
Totally. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Madhu. So before anything I get into, how does it feels to be a male in the industry or in the field of teachers? How does it feel?
Yeah, Lakshit, I'm so happy that you began with this such a nice question. It is an interesting question. Thank you so much. But fortunately, Lakshit, I think the higher education in India is still welcoming of male children, male teachers. So I think I'm a little fortunate in that way. But when you go to school, especially the elementary education, the primary education, I think somewhere there is still a stigma, and not a lot of male teachers want to try there. Unless it's not a government job and somebody is desperate for government job, they wouldn't try for a primary school teacher's position. But I have been fortunate to do that. But what I am struggling with right now is the kind of subjects that male teachers teach. For example, the moment you're a male professor, people would think you're a science person, or a mathematics person. The moment I say I'm an English professor, I can see a few cringes here and there. But that's again, a very stereotypical way of looking at or feminizing a particular position. But I'm happy that I'm breaking that stereotype. I'm very happy to be doing that.
Yes, totally wonderful. And also I agree, because when you hear about a male telling I'm a teacher, you always get that thing, okay, he would be a teacher who doesn't have hair and has a big tummy and could be teaching any of the subjects which not interest kids. Of course there are some students who love it, but of course some. So yeah, moving apart and moving from this, so so what made you, like, why did you decide to be a teacher? Why did you think you should be a teacher?
Well, that is an interesting question again, Lakshit. But I think when I think in retrospection, I've always felt the urge to, just transform whatever I've learned. I used to be a tutor back in the days. I've always enjoyed, just transferring the knowledge to people. That's essentially. But more than that, even as a child studying in school, of course, I've gone through several stages of wanting to become different, person, different, choosing different professions. For instance, I wanted to be a doctor when I was in 5th standard, but deep down, I knew I want to teach medicine. That is to say, I want to be a medical professor. Maybe at that young age, I didn't know to vocabularize it that well, but I knew I want to teach medicine rather than practicing it per se. Right. And then I remember in high school, I wanted to be a lawyer or something like that in the field of law, but I knew I wanted to teach law somewhere in deep down. So essentially, whatever I wanted to be, it used to all boil down to teaching that particular subject, But I became conscious of, this ambition of mine only in 12th standard, where there was this teacher of mine called Geeta, an English professor. I learned that she is an English person. She actually did her BSc before and then actually chose masters in English. which pretty much the same thing happened to me. I did my BSc in Christ University. Then in the fourth semester, I realized that I'm not really applying the concepts in my real life. And my strength is English and communication. So I better choose that. And I did, and that's the best decision I took in my life. I'm never regretted ever, not even for a single second. So that's how essentially I wanted to be a teacher. And more than anything, I think it's also, as children in our paracosm, we play our own games, right? You do have traditional games, but you still play your own games. Children have the tendency to create their own games. So like school, teacher, devil, So at least in the 90s, there was that innocence, I think so.
Yes.
So I used to be teacher, so where I used to keep my pillows as my students, hang on a slate to the wall and act like a teacher. And my mother used to always say that this fellow is going to be a teacher, and she's happy today. I think somewhere I have always had that instinct, and I'm happy today. I mean, it's one of the best place to be in. And imagine that every morning you wake up, you know that hundreds of students are getting ready, taking a bus or driving on their two-wheelers or four-wheelers, coming to listen to you, thinking that that is going to make a difference in their life. I mean, which profession can be so powerful, right? You go to a doctor because you have a problem.
Hmm.
You go to a lawyer because you have a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you go to a teacher because you want to be prepared to face problems in the future. I think that's a great feeling. And I think teachers should see their profession in this perspective, right? I think that's why I think I'm a teacher.
Yeah, totally wonderful to hear that. And also the teacher thing and the doctor thing. I remember also when I was a small kid playing that. Of course, I don't know how many
Okay.
people I know have played it, but yeah, I think that was also a thing when mobiles and all of that were not very mainstream. Like not
Mm-hmm.
everyone could afford them. So that time I remember playing
Yeah.
them. But after some years, we had
Okay.
phones with our parents, so we also got
Yeah.
playing with them. So totally. Uh,
Definitely.
so moving forward, Madhu, how do you think there are existent like a lot of parents today want to there was a survey. I'm not sure how truly or how extensively it was done all around India, but there was a survey done by an organization. They said that 50,000 teachers who are teaching in schools are homeschooling
Mhm.
their own children's because
Okay.
they are seeing a problem in the education system, and they don't want that their children become a part of the problem of the education system which is there, and they want their
Mhm.
student children to be more intelligent, or however you would like to put it, more independent, or all of that different various words, or how you would like to put up here.
Mhm.
So what do you think, what's the problem as a teacher? What do you think, what are the problems in the field of education which is making the own teachers by themselves not letting their own children go to schools and learn? Like why do you think, what's the problem here?
Yeah. Firstly, I'm quite surprised to know that, Lakshit. I'm glad you brought it up as well. But I think, I guess at least that it could be the problem, the obvious reason being that Indian education system somewhere is still hanging on to the very conservative way of looking at education. We don't allow allow our teachers and students, both of them, to actually be themselves, express themselves in a way, as opposed to Western schooling. At least, let's stick to my subject, which is English. At the maximum and UG level student, according to Bangalore University's curriculum, would do is write a 500 words answer to a critical question. So where they're trying to, analyze a particular concept or express themselves. But there's nothing really beyond that where we give a platform for them to express themselves. The curriculum doesn't demand it. I can only talk about higher education because I teach at college. But from experience of little bit that I have towards school, I think it's pretty much the same. Somewhere there is this very big demarcation between the science, mathematics, and the languages that could be very threatening
Yeah.
for actually parents who can understand the cognitive ability and the cognitive skills that are required to be developed in their children. So maybe they're trying to try with homeschooling, where they will have more opportunity, and they'll have more creative space to learn from. If you know the four essential basic communicative skills, creative thinking skills, and critical thinking skills and collaboration skills, which are the top 21st century skills today. I don't think our education system is matching with it in any way. You know, we become this factories of mass producing students with greatest of the greatest marks that they can go and get seat in IIT and IIMs, and that has become the main goal. And I think, in fact, I was surprised, and I'm pretty much happy if homeschooling can work in the way the parents want, then why not? But I think the greatest problem with education system is the way they're approaching subjects and the way they're actually looking at the whole system of education. That's the worst thing. So I'm surprised, at the same time I'm happy that homeschooling is something that is coming to way.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I'm also happy with that. And this was a you bought, and of course it has become it has become like an industry where you're producing and producing, and this
True.
isn't stopping. Is not going to stop anywhere sooner, and
Yes.
this is going to be happening.
Yes.
Of course, even if some government brings new reforms, and it's going to be taking years as a country of India to
Yes.
put all of them in together, and it's gonna be taking a toll on all the organizations to change them like this, and this is
Yes.
going to be taking more time. And also adding to that, homeschooling, I think it's a great way to also, if the teachers feel, if the parents feel that it's right for this children's, I think they can totally opt for it. And also government does help in that. We have National Institute of I'm not getting the full form,
Yeah.
NIOS, which is a right way where they can do
Yes.
it.
There's an
And
organization to look after. Correct.
yeah, so the government is also agreeing to that part and letting them do what they are feeling right. So yeah, I'm glad that it's happening. And marks, I'd say, per se, for me, okay, I'm taking much time, but just one last thing,
Please do.
that
Please do.
I think marks doesn't matter at a level. Of course, we read, we go to school and institutes, of course, for knowledge, but a bigger goal or bigger picture is to survive and make money so you can live in the society and do all you think. And the time you understand that without education, of course education did play a role, of course, with me, but when I understood that I can make money without having my degrees or without having anything else, now marks doesn't matter to me. Now I don't do it's not a big thing and a big deal for me. So just want to say one thing, people or anyone who's trying to just tell and glorify marks and all of that, after 5 6 years of their education and getting into their work and their jobs they wanted, they're gonna just end up crying for it, that we just spoiled a life for no reason. So so that's the only thing I would like to add up here. And so yeah,
Yeah.
Madhu, sorry for taking the time and moving putting the
No
next
problem.
question here.
In fact, I would also like to add a few more points, Lakshit, since that's very important. I have a couple of points. The first one is, I think, new education policy 2020 that the BJP government has proposed. I hope that really works out, and that is going to transform the education system, because they are going to. I mean, when I read the proposal, I think it's a very promising one. Saying, I have a couple of points to add here. One is the national new education policy 2020. I think that is going to be transforming, and I just hope it gets executed as it's planned. And with all its pros and cons, I think at least it's going to reach the newer heights of success. That's one thing I want to say. And also, Lakshit, adding on to what you said about marks, I would like to differ a bit here. I think marks somewhere is very misunderstood. The way you approach marks, like what is your goal is, of course, not to score full marks or score out of fault, but marks is somewhere the motivation for that time being. It just gives you that motivation. Okay, this test I have to score, and I think you have to leave it at that. But if your entire life goal becomes to score well in terms of marks, then that is dangerous. I think marks should not be overlooked so much. I think a lot of people do that, but I think marks should be very smartly used as a motivational factor for that time being, at least for a simple test that you want to prove to somebody. But marks should definitely not define who you are, right? But it should definitely tell you and motivate you for that time being. Like you have a test tomorrow, what is your motivation to prepare for that? The night before or the day before, it is the marks. And I think it should be looked at that way, in a simpler manner, like that. Okay, so I am not towards entirely overlooking of marks like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No worries at all of that. So
Yeah.
I think yeah, it could be rightly said too, and yeah, not disagreeing with it, but not totally agreeing too. So it's in between.
Yes.
So yeah. So the
Let's
next
agree to
question.
disagree.
Yeah, I agree to disagree. So yeah, next question I would like to put up here is
Yeah.
um what are your some of your school experiences, and what motivated you to be strongly opinionated with it? Yeah.
So basically, Lakshit, this is a very personal question, and I want to be as open as possible because I think it's the high time that I open myself to the people that I know and care. And since a lot of your followers, and I believe a lot of people who listen to this podcast will be, learning something from that. I joined this new school for my seventh standard, and it was a CBC school, and it was a massive opening to me, to my in my life. So it was a new setting. Everything was different for me. And as a child, I've always been a little shy and a very meek and quite a feminine child, I must say. Because even before that, as a very young child, I used to play with my three sisters. I never really went out. And as I just mentioned, that my game was teacher, teacher, nothing beyond that. My brother would take a cricket bat and go out, and but I would stick to my pillows. you know, but nobody in my family questioned it. But when I was hitting my puberty, my teenage, when all my secondary sexual characters started showing up, and my 13, 14 years, that age group that is when it hit me, because the boys started bullying me, because I never went into sports ground. I used to go to the library or the art and craft room. So again, this very, the great Indian morality and the great Indian masculinity just came over me, and I was bullied. When I say bullied, I mean it in its, in the basest way possible, not the filmy bullying.
Mhm.
Nobody hit me in the locker room. Nobody hit me in the washroom. But I was always subjected to somebody who was looked down on, despite being excellent in academics. I was one of the top three in the school. I did pretty well. Nobody dared touch my creative skills. But when it came to other than academics, which schooling is not only about, it is, of course, beyond academics, that's where I was pulled down. In fact, what really made me scared was not what my school friends or schoolmates were doing to me by bullying to me, but what my teachers did to me, you know because whenever my mother attended PTMs or whatsoever, any kind of meetings, the only comment from a lot of teachers was, Madhu is an excellent boy, does very well in academics, but he's always with the girls. He's but he's not with the boys, he's not playing with the boys. And poor mother, I think my mother didn't know what to say, and she would come and tell me. She would never question me. My mother was so unapologetic about the way I am. But I think it some way deep down bothered her as well, psychologically speaking. And I remember in eighth standard, there was this Kannada teacher who called me out once, and she said, "Why do you act like a girl?" And I was just 14, and I said, "Ma'am, I don't know." And when I said that, I shrugged my shoulders, and she said, "See, this is what I'm saying. These are all the behaviors of girl." Lakshit, that scared me. I remember crying in the school van that day and being so scared of what's wrong with me. And this was happening at one point of time where I was, trying to figure out what kind of a person I am and what's happening with me and all this negativity around me. And on the other hand, there was this one teacher who was unfortunately my class teacher, and she was fond of a group of boys, and was so partial with them, and she was so ignorant of the fact that it is affecting other children like me and many of others. I think a lot of teachers consciously or unconsciously do that. See, after all, teachers are also human beings.
Humans.
They're not superhuman beings, right? They will do mistakes, but I think a lot of teachers for some reason are not even sensitive to what kind of message are they sending from their day-to-day
Hmm.
behavior in the classroom,
Hmm.
in the surrounding.
Yeah.
This was most of my school experiences, but I've had the best schooling. I respect all my teachers, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them. But this was a little darker side, and it is this dark side that actually made me fiercely opinionated. I think by the time I came to 10th standard, nobody dared to say anything. In fact, I was called as the criminal lawyer because everybody knew I wanted to be a lawyer. So everybody used to, call me criminal lawyer just for fun. And I used to win all kind of debate competitions. And what was even more worse was just when I realized that things are going in the way I wanted and people are actually trying to understand me now and all that, I was happy. But in 10th standard, usually the senior most class in a lot of Indian school is 10th standard, right? So they choose school captain and school vice captain from 10th standard. And you have different color houses and all that, right? So apparently, one of my PT physical training, those days we used to call physical training, not physical education. One of my PTs saw, I think he recommended to the principal that we should not make Madhu the captain because his voice is not masculine enough. This again pulled my confidence so down that I was like, I was so creative, participates in all kinds of activities except for sports. But I used to at least try to be in some kind of sport activity. But again, I don't know, for some reason, he judged my voice. And out of everything that I used to do, my academic credentials, nothing mattered than my, meek voice. I don't know how a 10th standard, 15-year-old child is supposed to be masculine in his voice. But anyway, I must remember this principal called Prema Nandini, who actually took a step ahead of most of the teachers' opinions about me and made me the captain of this house called C.V. Raman House, the Red House. And I proved them wrong and I proved her right by actually doing pretty well. I don't, it doesn't matter how your voice is and all that. In fact, I remember at that point of time being the scary child that I was, going home and shouting in front of the mirror to make my voice rugged. What a stress. I mean, what a psychological stress, I would say. I think I was lucky enough to come out of all of it and speak so confidently today. But I don't know. I think I'm sure there are a lot of children yet who are actually victims of such microaggressions or such aggressive comments that the teachers are themselves putting their students into. Unfortunately, the teachers themselves. But I don't even want to blame them because our culture is like that in a way, if you think, right? It is patriarchal society after all.
Totally. Yes,
So
yes.
this is what my story is, Lakshit. That's why I think I'm fiercely opinionated.
Thank you very much for sharing that. So next question which I would like to put here, a lot of things were rightly said, and you did make a sense somewhere. I have been had an opportunity to similar things and all of that. So next thing I would like to put up here, the question I would like to put up here is, how can a teacher be sensitive to students of all kind? How can they be sensitive towards
Yeah.
students in a class?
Yeah. So if you're referring to the inclusive classroom, I think, Lakshit, I think for a country like India, inclusivity is still a little far-fetched milestone, but we're really doing great. But if you have to, bring it down or narrow it down to school level or the classroom level of a college or any institution, I would say that teachers have to be, a little more sensitive to what kind of person or personality each child or each student is.
Yeah.
Of course, inclusivity in terms of caste, creed, religion, I think this we have achieved a little bit, at least at the education level.
Yeah.
You have minority groups taking admissions. You have, in fact, I was reading an article the other day from the Hindustan Times that over a decade, the enrollment of female, students admissions to higher education has doubled up. Okay, that is a progressive sign. But I think as a teacher in a classroom, I think a lot of our teachers, professors, yet find it very difficult to be, understanding what kind of person each child is. You cannot question that little boy there who is an ambivert and doesn't answer all questions. You can't tag him like, okay, he's an inactive student, or that one person who's sitting in the front bench submitting all the assignments correctly and answers all your questions. You can't praise that child anytime and every time, right? So they can be, in fact, according to research by UNESCO, that there are students who will learn silently. In fact, they learn better. They're just silent in the classroom. They're not even nodding, but they're actually learning better than those who are expressing, right? In fact, I studied in Christ University, and I remember there was this, group of students who were, so mean to, other group of children, because Christ is a group of, all kinds of students from different parts of the world. It's a mini world in itself. Okay,
Mhm.
so usually the localites used to be a little, they used to feel little low because the way the other people dressed, the way they spoke, that fancy English, the accent and all that, the localites used to feel a little low. Okay, but I didn't see any kind of help that came from the lecturers there. They were completely overlooking at it. Nobody really addressed that issue. So I think a teacher, apart from being the subject expert that they are anyway supposed to be, they need to be
Mhm.
also a good human being. Try to be
Yeah.
kind to that child who's
Yeah.
expressing himself in a little different way. Maybe there's a little feminine child, but that is who he is. You know. But anyway, I mean, despite saying all this, I think things are really changing. You do have a lot of teachers today who are asking what are the definite and appropriate pronouns that you must be using to particular students. There is recognition of third gender in a lot of educational application forms. So these are all the progressive things, of course, but we have not hit the spot. Also, just in continuation with that, I want to say, I think uh, teachers, especially school teachers, they should take their B.Ed programs a little more seriously. It's not just a degree. They study child psychology in B.Ed program and they completely forget to apply it. They become such moral judges of students. They could be a boy and a girl who is having some kind of attraction to each other, or they could be a boy and a boy having some kind of attraction to each other. But the way we address it is what matters. Instead of making it a big issue, like something that's so immoral that the students have done. Obviously they're teenagers, they are going to be experimental, they are going to get attracted to each other. But I think that's why I think a lot of schools must appoint counselors, which is of course needs a lot of funding. But they must try and at least have one proper counselor who can address all these issues. But having said all this, teachers again are human beings. They have so much to care for. They have to prepare for a class. It's going to be even more stressful. But I think it's okay if you don't teach a lesson one day in a nice way. But if you can be kind to that one child who's different from the rest all the days, you are a successful teacher.
Teacher.
That's what I would say.
Totally, totally. Yeah, really, rightly said, Madhu. So just moving forward with the next question.
Yeah.
Uh, what's your take as a young teacher, as a young lecturer? What's your take on inclusivity in the higher education system in India? How do you think it's inclusive or exclusive? How is that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is my third year working in a UG college, which is affiliated to Bangalore University. And I think I'm going to limit my experience to that. I can't be talking on behalf of other state colleges because I have absolutely no idea. But I think higher education, because you're dealing with adults who are 18 plus, who are already, 12th pass, and, so I think there it's a little more better because the students themselves understand and they know how to be. But having said that, on the contrary side, it's also a little more sensitive because you're dealing with adults. So you can't be saying everything that you want, right? Because of course they're going to question, they're going to be even more opinionated. So I think the responsibility of college lecturers is double the responsibility of school teachers. So you must be a little more sensitive. Obviously, I think the crux of everything, Lakshit, honestly, is having an open mind. As much as cliched it sounds, I'm sorry, but I think that's the mantra, right? Just be open-minded. Do not be judgmental. You can't decide everything on one frame, what you saw. It's beyond that, right? You must describe, you must interpret, you must verify, you must evaluate. This dive module is something that has to be taught to all the teachers, apparently. I would say. So my take on inclusivity in higher education is, I think right now we are doing good, but it has not hit the spot yet. I think it has a long way to go.
Great. Yeah, totally. And also, as we were speaking about gender fluidity and how third gender or other genders have been also been, coming in the college forms and various places. So my next
Yeah.
question to you would be, how can we address gender fluidity in classrooms, and
Mhm.
what have you done for the same? Like how are you trying to do it in your
Yeah.
classrooms or in your college? Yeah.
Great. Lakshit, honestly, for me, because I am so, open about gender fluidity and I'm so comfortable with myself, I think it reflects in every class of mine because a lot of my students know that I am beyond just being an English professor. Okay, so if you see, a lot of my classes are very creative in terms of the concepts that we choose. Because I deal with literature, every literature piece can be looked in several different perspectives, right? So I always try to bring a gender fluidity perspective in every class of mine. And we have regular group discussions, we have regular presentations, seminars, a lot of other activities happening in my class and at a college level to actually sensitize students about gender fluidity. They need to understand what is it, why is one of their classmates behaving differently, and why is it different, as equal and as important and as natural as what they have in their mind and what they have in their body to be expressed of, right? It's
Yeah.
at that level. And in future, I'm not done it yet, but in future I do want to actually start a club. I tried this at a mini level, but we had to stop it because of the pandemic. But I want to start a club, on gender fluidity and invite young members from different parts of community and, in fact, country, if that's possible. And, just create engaging conversations on how we can actually build a better society in terms of gender fluidity, especially in for youngsters and students. So I'm just hoping to do that. But my only suggestion for a lot of young lecturers, if they want to address gender fluidity, is to actually make a mini research of themselves, uh, and try to take precautions as to not to offend anybody, because sometimes in the spirit of wanting to help somebody, you actually pass a judgment or at least a microaggression. So
Yeah.
be very careful with what you're saying. So do your own research, get your facts and theories corrected, and then go for it. I would say, I think every college, if possible, should have a gender fluidity council, like how you have student welfare officers and student council, open forums, have something like that, and just engage them in conversations, because conversations are the better way to actually sensitize minds. So how you have anti-ragging skills, cells and all that, you must have a gender fluidity cell or committee who deal with such issues. I think that will be a greater step for a country like India. I
Yeah.
think some colleges and institutions do have it, but I think most of us should try and have it.
To drive it. Totally, totally.
Yes.
So and also with a similar thing, there's a shift from teachers being facilitators, right? So what are your comments
Yeah.
on this, and what do you think? How and what's happening, and why is this switch happening in the first place?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a very interesting question, Lakshit. But I want to say here, whether you call uh, this profession as a teacher or a lecturer or a facilitator, I really want to quote Shakespeare here. What's in the name?
Hmm,
You know, a
totally.
rose that we call by any other name would smell as sweet. My favorite quote from Romeo and Juliet. It doesn't really matter. In fact, I was also very attracted towards this facilitator, the word, and educator, when a lot of fancy international school teachers used to introduce themselves as I am an educator. In fact, I remember going back to my Instagram profile and changing from lecturer to educator and facilitator. But then after a few days, I realized, so are you telling me if you're a lecturer, you're not educating anybody? Are you telling me if you're a lecturer, you're not facilitating anything?
Yeah.
So that, a lecturer is to be a facilitator and essentially to be an educator. So there's nothing in a name. But I do get when people say the paradigm shift from teacher to educator, because I think that is to deconstruct this whole notion of knowledge bearer. Hey, you know what? I am your teacher. I know everything. You will sit right in front of me and just listen to what I say. So this one way and the teacher-centered learning system has to be deconstructed. And therefore, I'm so welcoming of this paradigm shift. But otherwise, there's nothing much in just calling different names. It's pretty much the same. But I think when you're a facilitator, you're of course obviously are more welcoming to your students. Your students become conversational beginners. They become interpreters, evaluators, and helpers of their peers. They learn with peers. I think students, especially the young age, like primary and high school children, have innate capacity to learn from each other. We overlook on it. We say you study separately, go there. Just be dealing with yourself. I think this lot of group activities and group study help a lot because they love learning from each other, right? I think facilitation mainly involves such activities, and more than direct method of teaching, all the teachers would understand rather than this very traditional way of writing on the board and asking them to copy down. Uh, that's the worst way of teaching, I feel. I think communicative language teaching, the CLT language teaching method, especially for the language teachers, I would say is the best one because that gives students a platform to express themselves. I mean, what is the ultimate goal of education? To create healthy and happy human beings who will, of course, be responsible citizens and global citizens in the future. But if you cannot have a child who's happily and very freely expressing himself herself, that is a failure of education.
Totally.
So I would say this paradigm shift is excellent and we must be welcoming of it.
Yeah, totally. So, and you added that point that it's a worst way to teach in on boards and chalk the way
Yeah,
our teachers
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Why do you think it's failing? Why do you think it's boring or failing? Why do you think so?
I think you yourself gave the answer, Lakshit. I think it's boring. Uh, for the very fact being that this has been so monotonous. But not to condemn the pros of that teaching methodology, it has its own pros. But I think it's become so monotonous. Children can expect, okay, Madhu sir is going to come, he's going to put the lesson name on the board, he's going to write difficult words on the board, and he'll interpret the given literature piece and go off. Surprise your students, come up with the creative and something innovative every single day. I know it's a lot of stress. That's why a teacher has to be a better planner. Plan your lessons in advance. Surprise your children. I remember I took all my UG, one of my basic classes, one day to this college garden. We went to the garden and I made them sit in circle and we were discussing poetry there. Just surprise them like that instead of this monotonous way. Engage them in conversation. In fact, even science and mathematics teacher, I don't have any skills to be commenting on them, but I think some of them are quite regressive in their teaching methodology, despite having a lot of potential.
Hmm.
I think it's high time the teachers update themselves. Thanks to corona, a lot of them are tech savvy now,
Yeah.
but teaching methodology has to be given a different approach. The pedagogy has to be given a different approach. The 21st century skills, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity has to be inculcated in every classroom, irrespective of what subject you're teaching. That is the new way, and that's the only way to actually have a better world, I would say.
Totally. So thank you very much, Madhu. Just one more last question. Any message or any kind of thing you would like to add up here or anything, please go ahead. Over to you.
Yeah, I just want to say maybe to all the youngsters like me who are choosing teaching as your profession. If you are choosing it, uh, choose it with your heart. Please do not come to teaching just because you didn't get a job in some of the hi-fi companies or you couldn't start your own business. Please do not have teaching as your last option. In a way, I let me tell you, do not be a teacher by chance. Please be a teacher by choice, because that's the way you're going to enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy teaching, you will never really impart anything to your students, and that will be an utter injustice to your students. So please come to teaching profession with your full heart, and once you enter, never look back. Please never look back.
Totally.
Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Madhu, for spending your time out and joining me. A great session, a lot of things to think about, learn about, and think about and relearn, learn, and all of that things. So thank you very much for joining me in a great session, and really glad that I had a chance to talk to you on this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Same here. Same here, Lakshit. Let me just take one more minute to actually thank you. And I must mention there, I'm so happy that you had me, because I am not a winner of a Global Teacher Prize. I am not a great teacher. This is my just third year, but the fact that you recognize that I am a teacher, and every teacher has something to say.
Yeah,
Because a lot of times,
totally.
I feel like, people think it is a success to be a doctor.
Mm.
People think it is a success to be an engineer, but nobody recognizes the fact that it is a success also to be a teacher. I mean, why not? I have always wanted to be a teacher, and I am a teacher today. That is my success, right? And nobody recognizes it. And thanks for you. You recognized it. You thought I was eligible to be on your podcast. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, and keep inspiring people. You're just 17, but you're inspiring more and more people. And I wish you more power, Lakshit. Thank
My
you so
pleasure,
much.
my pleasure, my pleasure, Madhu. Thank you very much for joining in. A pleasure to hear you out. And I hope everybody who's seeing this and hearing this also learned a lot of things. Again, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much.